She stood over him, the kitchen knife trembling in her hand. One blade wasn't enough. When it broke, she grabbed another, and another. 62 times she brought the blade down. 62 times she chose rage over reason. And when she finally dialed 911, she had the audacity to lie about what she'd done. This is the face of narcissistic violence. The kind that hides behind charm and beauty. The kind that destroys everything it touches. The kind that turns love into a weapon. I'm diving into the evidence room, and today, we're examining 3 cases where narcissistic personality traits didn't just end relationships, they ended lives. Cases where manipulation, obsession, and an inflated sense of self-worth led to cold-blooded murder. Before we begin, if you appreciate deep dive true crime analysis, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on your notifications. Smash that like button to help this video reach more people. And I want to hear from you in the comments. Have you ever encountered someone with these dangerous personality traits? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Now, let's step into the evidence room and examine the evidence. What makes someone capable of murder? Is it a look in their eyes? A pattern of behavior? An attitude that screams danger? After studying criminal psychology and behavioral analysis for years, I can tell you, it's complicated, but there's one thing that's consistent. There is a deadly personality type that emerges again and again in true crime cases: narcissists. People who pursue their own desires with single-minded focus. People who will steamroll over anyone who dares to stand in their way. Master manipulators. Pathological liars. Individuals who create false realities to serve their own needs. Today, we're looking at 3 separate cases that share disturbing similarities. 3 narcissists who couldn't accept rejection. 3 people who believed they were above the consequences of their actions. 3 murderers who thought they could charm their way out of justice. Let me take you through each case, piece by piece, evidence by evidence. By the end of this video, you'll understand the warning signs. You'll see how these personality traits escalate from manipulation to violence. Let's begin with a woman who had 5 husbands by the age of 31, and one of them would never be seen alive again. Florida, the year 2008. Dwayne Barrentine is a single father raising his son alone. Then he meets 31-year-old Tasha Fields, attractive, charming, and also a single mother. It feels like fate, the perfect recipe for a blended family. Tasha knows exactly what to say and when to say it. She tells you things you want to hear, Dwayne would later recall, and she does it with an agenda in mind. The relationship moves quickly. Tasha starts coming over regularly. She cooks, cleans, and dotes on Dwayne's son. For a single dad struggling to balance work and parenting, this feels like a dream come true. She floods Dwayne with love notes, written declarations of devotion. I love you, baby, with all my heart, and I will be yours for as long as I'm here. I will raise our babies and love you forever. It was good, Dwayne admits. Really good. The kind of relationship that feels too perfect to question. But with narcissists, there are always warning signs. Always little cracks in the facade. For Dwayne, that first crack appears in his mailbox. Mail starts arriving, addressed to different names. Tasha Morton, Tasha Kemp, Tasha Hesse, Tasha Fields. 4 different last names, all the same woman. How many times have you been married, Tasha? Dwayne asks. Through tears, she confesses 5 times. By the age of 31, Dwayne is stunned. A girl 31 years old, married 5 times. Why couldn't you make it work? You've had 5 opportunities. Narcissists are inveterate liars. They lie not only to others, but to themselves. They construct false realities to cloak their conscience. Once Dwayne spots one lie, the others become easier to find. I look back, and it was one lie after another, he says. She told me she had a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. A lie. She told me her grandfather was a federal judge who went blind when a battery exploded. Another lie. Tasha fabricates stories at a moment's notice. She could script a Broadway play at the drop of a hat, Dwayne explains. And you'd believe it. Dwayne digs deeper and discovers Tasha has 2 other children from previous relationships, children she abandoned. Then comes the bombshell. An ex-boyfriend tells him he believes Tasha was involved in the murder of one of her exes. Dwayne investigates and discovers Mitch Kemp, Tasha's 3rd husband, has disappeared, vanished, right in the middle of a contentious custody battle over their young daughter. Dwayne accesses Tasha's messages and finds Mitch's family has been desperately trying to reach him. They haven't heard from him in 3 or 4 years. A father fighting for custody doesn't just abandon that fight. Something happened to Mitch Kemp, and Tasha knows exactly what. Dwayne ends the relationship immediately. By 2008, he's convinced Tasha is a murderer. When he shares his suspicions with law enforcement, they confirm his fears. The detective tells him, Dwayne, keep this quiet, but I believe we have a homicide on our hands. Here's what really happened. Tasha wanted out of her custody arrangement with Mitch Kemp. She wanted sole custody without the hassle of co-parenting. For a narcissist, sharing control is intolerable. So Tasha devised a plan that required a weapon, not a gun or knife, but a person, someone who loved her enough to do anything for her. That person was Greg Morton, husband number 4. Tasha told Greg that Mitch had assaulted her. That he was dangerous. If my wife came home and said she'd been attacked, one investigator noted, I would have done the same thing Greg did. I don't know what loving husband wouldn't. That's the insidious nature of narcissistic manipulation. They weaponize emotions. They turn love into a tool for violence. Tasha lured Mitch to their farm under false pretenses, telling him they needed to talk about their daughter. Mitch agreed to meet, having no idea he was driving to his execution. When Mitch got out of the car, Greg Morton later testified, he put his hands up. Greg fired 5 shots into his chest. Mitch fell to his knees, reaching up toward Tasha with blood bubbling from his mouth. And Tasha? She kicked his hand away, spit in his face, and said, hurry up and finish it. No remorse, no hesitation, just cold, calculated malice. They almost got away with it. For years, Mitch Kemp's disappearance remained unsolved. But Dwayne's suspicions, combined with persistent investigative work, eventually cracked the case open. When police confronted Tasha with the evidence, she did what narcissists do best. She blamed someone else. She led them to the body, then pointed the finger squarely at Greg Morton. Greg, realizing he'd been used, gladly made a plea deal to testify against Tasha. He told the jury everything, every detail of the manipulation, every step of the murder. In 2010, Tasha Fields was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Greg Morton received 19 years for second-degree murder. As Dwayne reflected, I think that man's doing 19 years because he fell for a master manipulator. I'm just lucky I got out. According to criminal psychologists, narcissists may seem confident, but they're massively insecure. Jealousy, resentment, and inability to enjoy others' good fortune. These are all warning signs. And, of course, the dishonesty that poisons everything they touch. If you're enjoying this deep dive, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the Evidence Room for more content like this every week. Now, let's move to our second case involving a wealthy socialite, a blue-collar electrician, and a murder that shocked New York's elite. Every child wants to be like their father. Strong, aggressive, respected. This is Danny Pelosi's worldview. The year is 2000. Danny is a blue-collar electrician hired to work on renovations at a massive 7-story Manhattan mansion belonging to Generosa Aman, a wealthy New York socialite going through a messy divorce from millionaire husband Ted Ammon. During the renovation, Generosa notices something she likes about the electrician. She makes Danny an offer, a $300,000 a year job. What did that feel like? An interviewer later asks. Like winning the Powerball, Danny responds. I told everybody. For someone from Danny's background, it's life-changing money. But the job comes with strings attached. Strings that will eventually strangle everyone involved. According to Danny, Generosa initiated a romantic relationship. She asks me, what if I asked you to kiss me? Danny describes. I tell her I don't want to lose my job. She says, what if I tell you that if you don't kiss me, you'll lose your job? That's how it started. When asked to describe Generosa, Danny reveals something chilling. There's 2 sides. Generosa was a beautiful woman, until her husband was killed. If you got on her wrong side, you saw the face of evil. October 20th, 2001. Ted Ammon is found dead in his East Hampton home. The scene is brutal, violent, personal. The prosecution's case is straightforward. Danny Pelosi attacked Ted with a stun gun, then beat him to death. The motive? Ted stood in the way of Danny's relationship with Generosa and access to her wealth. But Danny tells a completely different story. A story so elaborate and implausible it becomes a case study in narcissistic delusion. According to Danny, he didn't kill Ted. Instead, 3 other men carried out the murder. And the entire murder was captured on home security cameras. And Danny watched it happen on his laptop. Do you know who killed Ted Ammon? An investigator asks. Absolutely, Danny responds. I know everything. Then, the bizarre claim. I got the whole thing on the laptop. I seen him get killed on the computer that night. I was watching it in real time, but 2 hours later. Real time, but 2 hours later? The contradiction doesn't register with Danny. He's constructing a narrative where internal consistency matters less than maintaining innocence. Danny elaborates with increasingly specific details. Ted's skull was broken with a .38 caliber revolver, then a 9mm pistol, then a .25 caliber handgun. 3 guns, 3 impacts. An investigator's response. When Danny was describing the guns, he kept stacking lie upon lie upon lie. I found it comical. For the narcissist, if they say something, you're supposed to believe it because it came from them. This is the narcissistic pattern in its purest form. Reality doesn't matter. evidence doesn't matter. Only the narrative they've constructed matters. But here's the critical problem. If this murder was captured on camera, if Danny has video evidence of 3 other men committing the crime, that evidence would exonerate him completely. So where is it? The prosecutor's contention is that you killed Ted Ammon, an interviewer points out. It would be convenient to have that recording. Where's the black box? Danny's answer is almost comedic. It was thrown into a creek by me. To protect her from assault charges and protect the people who went out there. He threw away the one piece of evidence that would prove his innocence. Just tossed it into a creek. Danny never brought up any of this evidence in 2004 when he was convicted and sentenced to 25 years to life. That's because it's not true. It's the alternative universe of a classic narcissist. In 2004, Danny Pelosi was convicted of murder and sentenced to 25 years to life. Generosa Ammon died 2 years after Ted's death, leaving Danny's story in a vacuum, with no corroboration and mountains of contradicting evidence. When reality doesn't fit a narcissist's dream, they create their own reality. They fabricate stories that cast them as the hero or victim of their own fictional narrative. Make sure you're subscribed to the Evidence Room and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future episodes. Now, let's turn to our third and final case about a beautiful, popular young woman whose need for attention led to one of the most brutal murders you'll ever hear about. Kim Coleman had the kind of life most people dream about, most popular girl in high school. At Grambling State University, Kim's star continued to rise. Homecoming queen. Active in her historically black sorority, somebody everyone knew and admired. Then she met 28-year-old Air Force Sergeant Brian Spinks. He was really into her, his close friend Shane Wright remembers. He told me he thought about bringing her home to meet family. That's when I knew he really liked her. It seemed perfect. 2 young, ambitious, attractive people building a future together. But beneath Kim's polished exterior lurked something dangerous. Something possessive. Something that would explode into lethal violence. Brian valued his independence, friendships, and personal space. Normal, healthy boundaries in any relationship. But for Kim, boundaries were unacceptable. She needed constant attention, constant validation. She would check his phone to see if there were any messages from anybody else, Shane recalls. She was kind of jealous. Brian tried to laugh it off. Yeah, she's just crazy. Don't worry about her, he'd say, but he should have worried. With narcissists, jealousy isn't just an emotion, it's a warning sign, a need for control. After 2 years, Brian began to tire of Kim's surveillance and jealousy. He started creating distance, not dramatically, but gradually. And Kim noticed. Narcissists are hypervigilant about any perceived slight, any hint of rejection. Brian started deliberately avoiding Kim. If we would see her, he'd pull me aside and say, "I just saw Kim, I'm gonna leave," Shane remembers. He did that at least half a dozen times. He didn't want a confrontation. For narcissists, this avoidance is the ultimate insult. It's rejection. It's loss of control. It's unacceptable. January 16th, 2010. Brian and friends are at a local bar when Kim walks in. Shane alerts Brian, "I just saw Kim. She's here. Do you want to leave or stay?" Brian has avoided Kim before, but this time he decides differently. It's okay. I'll deal with it. I want to stay. It's a decision that will cost him his life. Kim sees Brian talking to another woman, just talking. But to Kim, it's betrayal. She was very upset, witnesses recall. Yelling and screaming. People were trying to hold her back. Brian tells his friend, "Just take me home. I'm done with her." Back home, Brian decides to end the relationship officially by voicemail. He leaves a message. "Hey, I'm tired of dealing with this. I was going to tell you why I'm done with you, but if you don't want to answer the phone, that's fine." For a narcissist, being dumped is intolerable. Being dumped by voicemail? That's the ultimate humiliation. That demands retribution. January 17th, 2010, 10:15 in the morning. Brian's phone rings. A friend leaves a message. "This is my 3rd phone call. You were supposed to be here 30 minutes ago." But Brian isn't answering. He's not returning calls. Friends and family begin to worry. Something is terribly wrong. Kim Coleman wasn't used to being ignored, wasn't used to being dumped. So she showed up at Brian's house seeking the ultimate revenge. She brought a kitchen knife. And she stabbed Brian, not once, not twice, more than 60 times. When one knife broke from the force of her attacks, she grabbed another and kept going. 62 wounds total. 62 times she chose violence. Like a true narcissist, Kim believed she could lie her way out. She called 911 reporting a mystery intruder attacked them. But her call was premature. Brian wasn't dead yet. On the 911 recording, you can hear Brian's voice in the background. His cries for help, his desperate pleas. Hearing Brian's voice on that call is one of the hardest things I've ever had to listen to, Shane says. You hear him pleading for his life, knowing the person who did this is still right there next to him. Investigators believe Kim realized her mistake when she heard Brian's voice. If police arrived and found him alive, he'd identify her immediately. So she finished what she started. It's almost demon-like what she did, one investigator noted. The level of rage, the persistence, the complete absence of mercy. When police arrived, Kim played the traumatized girlfriend, the innocent victim. She was so grandiose about her ability to charm people that she truly believed she could manipulate law enforcement. But investigators noticed immediately, Kim had no defensive wounds. When someone witnesses a violent murder, when they struggle with a knife-wielding intruder, they get cuts defending themselves. Kim had none. She had Brian's blood on her, but no wounds of her own. The lack of defensive wounds sealed her fate. In 2012, Kim Coleman was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. She'll never walk free, never have another chance to destroy someone who dares to leave her. Brian Spinks was 28 years old, an Air Force sergeant with friends who loved him, family that cherished him, and a future stolen in the most brutal way imaginable. All because he tried to end an unhealthy relationship. 3 cases, 3 narcissists, 3 lives destroyed. Tasha Fields manipulated her husband into committing murder, then blamed him when caught. Danny Pelosi constructed an elaborate alternative reality rather than accept responsibility. Kim Coleman believed she could stab someone 62 times and charm her way out of murder. These aren't just stories about murder. They're lessons about personality types that can be identified and avoided. If you're in a relationship where lies, jealousy, and implausible stories are common, you need to consider moving on. These aren't just red flags, they're alarm bells. You can never be a narcissist's true friend. Friendship requires reciprocity, genuine care for another person's well-being, the ability to celebrate someone else's success without feeling threatened. Narcissists can't do any of these things. The warning signs are there: constant lying, jealousy, and possessiveness, an inability to accept responsibility, manipulation, and charm used as weapons, an explosive reaction to rejection or criticism. If you recognize these traits in someone close to you, protect yourself, set boundaries, seek support, and if necessary, walk away. Because as these 3 cases prove, narcissistic behavior can escalate from emotional abuse to lethal violence. Thanks for watching The Evidence Room. If you found this analysis valuable, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who loves true crime. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. Drop a comment below. What case should we examine next? What warning signs have you noticed in your own life? Your engagement helps this channel grow and helps us bring you more in-depth true crime analysis. Until next time, stay safe, stay aware, and keep examining the evidence. This is The Evidence Room.